The Land of Lost Things by Mort Walker of Beetle Bailey fame and Dick Brown of Hagar the Horrible fame. On Sunday, Tad's parents took him to the beach. The boardwalk is always an exciting place for a little boy. There was so much to see and so many people, Tad couldn't wait to see it all, and he ran ahead. Suddenly, everything became confusing. I should have stayed with Dad, he thought. Everything looked so different. He ran toward the opening in the maze. And found himself in a strange place he had never seen before. "I'm lost," he cried. He could hear the lonely echo of his voice. "I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost." "Who's lost?" said a head popping out of a pile of baseball gloves. Tad jumped behind a signpost. "Who said that?" "Don't be afraid, it's only me, old Booney. I'm in charge here," the man said. "But where am I?" cried Tad. "Why, you're in the boondocks, son. Can't you read? That's why I put this sign here. I keep forgetting where I am, too." "What are the boondocks?" asked Tad. "The boondocks is the place where lost things go. I'll bet you lost a glove last winter and your mom lost her car keys and your dad could never find his hammer. They're probably all here among the balloons that kids lost at fairs, the umbrellas, the buttons, the library books, lunch boxes, sneakers, missing jigsaw puzzle pieces, and thousands of things that are lost every day." "Can't people ever get their things back?" Tad asked. "Sure they can," said Booney. "All they have to do is say the magic words. Alakazast, where was it last? Alakazee, where should it be? Alakazit, I'll look for it. Say those words and most things appear right where you left them." "I hope they work for lost boys," cried Tad, "because I'm lost." "Oh dear," murmured Booney. "The magic words won't work for cats or dogs or turtles or anything that walks away from where you left it." He looked confused. "I had some magic words written down for finding children, but I lost them." This made Tad cry even harder. He wanted so badly to be home in his own room and to see his mother and father again. Booney's cheerful voice broke in. "I always say, if you don't know what to do about something, do something else. Come here," he called to Tad. "I'll show you how to put cobwebs on this scooter." He got some cobwebs on Tad too, but Tad pretended not to notice. He also showed Tad how to sprinkle rust on an old suit of armor. "This is my job, to keep everything rusty, dusty, and cobwebby," said Booney as he sprinkled. He got some rust on Tad's belt buckle, but Tad didn't say anything. That night at dinner, Tad saw a piece of paper fall from Booney's hat into his soup. "What's this?" Booney picked it up and read, "Magic words for lost children. Child's name, father's name, home address." "I found them," Booney cheered. "I forgot to ask you, son, what is your name?" "Tad." "Well, that's a nice name." Booney returned to eating his dinner. "Aren't you going to ask me my father's name?" "Oh, yes. What's your father's name?" "Dad." "That's a good name for a father," Booney said, and went back to eating again. Tad sniffled. It wouldn't do any good to try the last magic word. He didn't remember his address either. He would just have to say, stay here in the boondocks with his nice Booney and his bad memory. The next morning, Booney announced to Tad, "I'm making you my permanent assistant in the boondocks." From now on, you're in charge of the lost toy department over there. It's over there, Tad corrected him. By gum, you're right, Boone mumbled. Over there. It was plain to see that Boone could use an assistant. And so it went, day after day, Boone and Tad making the rounds together. It was hard work keeping all the lost things covered with cobwebs and rust, but they managed to have some fun at it. There were so many wonderful things to be seen in the boondocks that Tad found himself forgetting to be homesick. One day, Tad was busy putting cobwebs on an old silk hat when he heard a terrible noise in the air. He looked up. Gee, those are funny-looking birds. Boone heard them too. Quick, Tad! Hide! The finders keepers birds are coming! But it was too late. Suddenly the sky was black with the big, sticky-fingered creatures diving down and grabbing at things, lost things, as they screeched, Finders keepers! Boone tried to fight them off with a slingshot, but there were too many of them. In a brief moment, the attack was over. The cry of finders keepers grew fainter as the birds flew off, clutching electric trains, yo-yos, and other toys in their sticky fingers. On the spot where Tad had been standing was nothing but the cobweb machine he'd been using. They took him, Boone screamed. The finders keepers birds have snatched my little boy. I forgot to warn him about them. Oh, why am I so absent-minded? In times of emergency, people sometimes do things that surprise everybody. Boone knew what he had to do. He went right to work dusting off the old triplane, which was covered with 50 years of cobwebs. He attached an old ship's bell to the top wing and found a foghorn in working order. He threw in a large bag of dust and cobwebs and all the things he knew he would need. By sundown, he had everything ready. I'd better wait till it's darker, he thought. Oh, I forgot to put rainwater on some of the lost things today, said Boone. He got his can and watered an old lost golf club. In no time at all, Boone had forgotten all about Tad until he bumped his head on the airplane wing. What dumbbell left that sitting there? Then Boone remembered his mission and swung into action. He flew the triplane as low as he could down Lost River and out over Lonely Lake, ringing the ship's bell and blowing the foghorn as his wheels barely touched the water. It was dark, but in a short time he could see the dim outline of Missing Mountain rising from the mist. At the top was a nest of the finders keepers birds. As Boone came closer, ringing the bell and blowing the foghorn, he heard the screeching of the birds coming down the mountain to meet him. Then he saw them lined up at the shore. When the birds saw the plane, the screeching suddenly stopped. Boone's plane had worked. The surprised birds, expecting a boat, had left their nest unguarded. Boone swooped into shore before they had a chance to recover and emptied the bags of dust and cobwebs over the birds' heads. That will hold them long enough, Boone chuckled. He flew straight to the top of the mountain, leaving the birds churning and coughing in the dusty web below. Tad, he called out as he got near the nest, grab the basket as I fly over. He lowered the basket into the vast black crater of a nest. I hope I'll be able to find him in this dark hole among those 1,000 stolen toys. At that moment, the moon came out from behind the clouds and Boone could see the boy huddled next to a hobby horse. Tad! Boone! It was a happy Boone who flew back over Lonely Lake that night with Tad dangling in the basket beneath the plane. For the first time, he realized how much he loved him. There was a joyous reunion. Back at the boondocks, Boone hugged the boy as if he were his own son. He'd never had a son of his own, but this experience had convinced him he could never love anyone more than he loved Tad. "Look what I found in the nest," said Tad as they sat down for dinner. "It's the billfold of my father lost in the park last summer. See, it has my picture in it." "By gum," said Boone, "it's you all right." He took the billfold. "I wonder what else is in it." "Why, look here, it's your father's identification card." Boone read, "Your father's name is Wiley Meyer. Your home is at 61 North Avenue. Poof." Boone looked up when he heard the sound. Tad had disappeared. "Oh, golly," he sighed. "I said the magic words." Poof, 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 poof. That's the way it is with lost things. 1 minute they're lost, and poof, they're found. It all seemed like a dream to Tad. As he went to bed that night, he couldn't help wondering, is there really a place called the Boondocks? Could there be a man like Boone? I wonder.